Hi, Matt. Hello, everybody.
Planning Commission meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Our first order of business tonight is to approve the agenda. All commission members have received a copy of tonight's agenda. The agenda for this evening includes one item on the consent agenda and one public hearing, which is a variance request for 7998 Crestview Lane. Does anyone want to add or amend anything to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as stated.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are those items on the planning commission agenda which are considered routine or non-controversial that are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a planning commission member specifically requests that an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, second, and vote. Any item removed from the consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. We have one item on tonight's agenda. That is the minutes from the May 2024 Planning Commission meeting. We have not had meetings since then, as there has not been business. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve it.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. All right, our next item on the agenda is the public hearing this evening on a request for a variance at 7998 Crestview. Commission members have received the staff memo regarding the building permit and variance application and the staff report on the variance request. Before I open the public hearing, I'd like city staff to summarize the request for a variance.
Sure, go ahead. You want to put your mic?
All right, so this is a 28-foot after the fact variance request from section 35-3 district performance standards to document a 2,800 roughly square foot garage expansion that was permitted by city staff and built into the rear yard setback of the property. So for the rural residential district, the rear yard setback for both primary and accessory structures is 60 feet for parcels over 2 acres. This one was built basically starting at that 60-foot setback and then further into the rear yard setback. Based on staff review, we are recommending denial of the variance just because based on the 3 general criteria for granting variances, it doesn't, or planning staff doesn't believe that it meets the, which one was it? Sorry. Probably should have highlighted that one. Just basically, we think that it could have been placed with or outside of that rear yard setback. So it's not absolutely necessary for it to be in the setback in the first place.
All right, thank you. I will now open up the public hearing. Actually, pardon me. Is the owner or representative of the property present and would they like to address the planning commission before I open the public hearing? Seeing none, I will now open the public hearing related to this request for variance. This is the time for residents to provide comments pertaining to this application. Staff, did we receive any written comments from residents about this project?
No.
Right. Are there any residents here tonight who would like to comment on this request for variance? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to comment on this request for variance? Going 3 times. Hearing none. Could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Make the motion that we close the public hearing.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Do any planning commission members have questions, comments, or concerns that they want to share or address regarding this request for a variance?
I got a few, I guess. I guess I'm just curious. I'm guessing it's just a mistake, but I guess how did we get to the spot where we gave someone a permit and then now we're taking it away from them? It's kind of, I'm sure it's just an oversight or whatever, but yeah. I guess Brian, just trying to make sure it doesn't happen again, because it's probably not a good situation to be in. That's kind of where I'm coming from on it.
Yeah. Well, it was a mistake on my end as the planner. It went through my review, and I didn't catch the side yard setbacks correctly. It was on a corner lot and I made the mistake in my review. It isn't obviously normal for us to have something like this go through.
And I get that. I'm not trying to put you on the spot or nothing. It's just, obviously it's something we don't want
Right.
happening often. So,
Yeah.
that's just kind of, where I'm coming from, I guess, but
Sure. Are there other questions?
Well, just one quick thing. I kind of went over the packet a little bit. And I guess, I'm not sure, when you look at the certificate of survey, you can see that on their drawing where the existing garage was, they were having 60-foot setback on that. It was like 60.85 feet.
Mhm.
And then the proposed extension, which I understand now hasn't been completed.
Right.
Up to this moment, I thought it was all completed, but it's not. Then
Yeah.
my understanding, okay, that's something different. And then that way it went to like 32 or 38 feet, close to that,
Yep.
considering that for the rear property line, it's 60-foot setback. So originally it was, the original building was fine. And I guess I was wondering, would the builder have caught that? And
Yes, the builders who brought it to my attention. Yeah, I did not realize until I got to it and that's when we put a immediate stop to it. And decided to take this route.
take this route, okay. Okay,
how far along is he in the
You
process?
did have pictures on in your packet. It looks like there's some footings down. There's construction equipment outside, but it doesn't look like much. You might see that, as far as I've seen.
Yeah.
But
I mean, But
so
I mean, he's definitely got money tied up into it for sure.
Yeah.
okay, so it looks like in some of these pictures, it looks like building material stacked up
Mhm.
and. Okay, so he isn't that far committed into the deal
Right.
yet then, okay.
So what was what was the timeline? I mean, to me, there's a distinction of. The city makes an error, proves it. And then he thinks he's good to go, and it's, 3 months go by and he's putting the footings in, he's ready to go, he's got everything lined up, and then we tell him no. Versus we give him permission the next morning to catch it. I mean, to me, there's a distinction there. So. So I'm just trying to piece that together. So when did, it doesn't, when did he apply for the?
June 24th,
And then it was approved?
I believe the following, I
Okay.
don't know the exact date for that one.
And then when was the first? He wasn't notified of the error, or no, the builder brought it to the city's attention.
Yep.
Approximately when?
When that first letter went out at 8:24.
8/24? Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a letter on 9/4 referencing a letter on 8/12. All right,
Mhm.
so. There we go. Okay, so how long between he thought he was good to go and obviously committed to it? Before it was brought, before he was told, I assume his builder told him, then he told the city?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, and the builder came to us directly, when he came to pick up or pay for the permit. They applied for it, and then by the time, the week before they had started on 8/26. The builder came in to pay for the permit. And he's like, I just want to make sure that I don't think these setbacks are correct. And then after the looking, I was like, you are correct, it's not. And then I told him, we could either go the variance route or you could help the plans and resubmit. They chose to go the variance route.
got it. Okay, so it was a solid June 24th, or I guess, end of June, it was approved. And then August 26th, he was told no go.
Correct.
Okay. Right. So, I mean, is there any, I mean, what's the thought process of this thing was put up, then what does the city do? I mean, it's done, he's done, he thinks he was in compliance, finds out he's not in compliance. I mean, that's
Right.
he thought he was good to go, and then, you know, he puts all the money into it. I mean, I hear you, the city has rules and laws, we gotta follow them, but it seems to me if the city made an error,
Right.
he drops 300 grand, put up this garage, and then finds out he's
Right.
gotta knock it down. That's not very.
Right.
Well,
I don't, yeah,
well, I guess at one point is that he hasn't committed to building it yet. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got the materials,
yeah.
and it'd been different. I was under the impression that he had already built it. It's done.
I was.
That was my impression. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is gonna get gnarly.
Yeah.
And so and then of course I read our city attorney's comment on, you know, who has the true authority to grant variances and that sort of thing. So I guess and so it still is within this body right here.
Well, I think to be technically accurate, we make a recommendation.
Yeah, I know,
to the
we make
city
a
council,
recommendation to the city council.
Who then will issue or not issue a
Okay.
variance request.
Okay, I understand that.
I think he definitely has significant money already spent on the project. It's probably pretty, you know, he has building materials there. And he, you know, has hired a contractor and, you know, he's got money tied up into it already. Which he probably wouldn't have if he didn't have a permit, so.
And I can understand that. I'd like it to ask staff if they could walk us through. What are the criteria that upon which we are allowed under law to be making our recommendation? Because I think, you know, that clarity would be helpful.
The guidelines for granting variances.
Yes.
Sure, so that's under the findings of fact in here, so I can go through it, but just if you want to follow along. So the first of which, so this is from Minnesota statute 462.357. So number one, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the zoning ordinance. And our reasoning is that private garages are a permitted accessory use, so it meets that criteria. The second one that I couldn't think of earlier is the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner. So typically that would be like unique topographical features, sensitive environmental things, where, you know, maybe there's a gigantic wetland on their property, so they would need to build it into the setback to avoid that. That would usually apply. In this case, there were no such features that we saw, so there were other locations that it could have been built. So that was kind of the one that raised the red flag for us. And then the last one is the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. We didn't think that that would be the case. We felt that it fit architecturally and scale wise into the neighborhood, so it's really just that second one.
And all three have to be.
All three have to be
all
met.
All three have to be met.
There are a couple other things that are helpful to consider when we go through the variance approval process, just, like compliance or alignment with the comprehensive plan, things like that, but those aren't necessarily statutory requirements for variances, so it's mainly just these three.
Talk to us about what potential precedent this could set if we grant this variance and then other residents come and apply for variances under similar circumstances or, in terms of the placement along the lot line.
Right, so my understanding is that variances don't set precedent. That's always, what I've been told. Obviously, in practice, that might be a little different just because people can point back and say, yeah, see, you did that, but typically they don't set precedent. I guess I can't really speak to the sorts of ramifications, but just kind of going back to what Matt said, like this was just a mistake. Like our intention is not to have these sorts of variances go this way. We would ideally want to catch them before it happens. So I don't know. I don't necessarily want to get bogged down in the in the hypotheticals at this time.
Yeah,
But is it also the mistake of the builder not knowing the city setback requirement?
Yeah. But if the planner tells you, if you got the permit, you should.
Yeah, you should
Yeah,
assume that it's. The standards.
Right, but yeah,
It always helps to have a second set of eyes at the city to kind of fact check.
Yeah.
So
well.
that would be ideal.
Do you, yeah, the builder, the Moderna, I guess they've been around 30 years, built about 800 homes, and they're all primarily here in the Prior Lake, Lakeville, Southern Twin Cities areas. So I'm not sure what their backroom capabilities are, but I'm sure they're probably pretty knowledgeable of all the variances of all the municipalities they have to operate in. So I think that, sometimes the quality control issue of maybe the builder probably should catch something like this too. Like, even though there was a mistaken permit given, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, now the process is this and this and this, basically what they know. And that, they can go to our website and our zoning ordinances spell all that out, that this has to be part of the process. And then of course I can look at the survey dated June that there's a problem there. You can see it. So at the builder, and that survey was sent to the builder. It was sent to them, so they knew about this. So I think that then there's a sense of quality control even on the builder's part, where they see something and they think, well, this is different, get the permit, and here we can see on this document that there's a problem. So if they were doing things right, they'd say, let's check back with them, which they did.
Right, I was gonna say they did.
They came back and said, I think there's a problem here, and you better rethink your thingy,
Right.
your permit. So that, I think kudos to them that they did their part looking at that. And it's a learning moment for us, of course, to do that sort of thing. As a way, we don't like to have this happen, because it puts us in that sort of an uncomfortable spot. Does that mean that we have to do something that under other circumstances we wouldn't normally have to take a certain decision for? Though what I've been reading and from the information given by the city attorney, and just from the packages I'm reading, they heard from the staff report, that the uniqueness is that the situation is created by the landowner and not by any topographical areas, like marshlands or septic systems or something that be nearby. So there's an option for the landowner to go a different direction. It's going to cost some money. Yeah, this is and it's unfortunate, we don't like to have these sort of things where somebody's costing money, but then they say in here, financial burden is not a item that you would look at as an undue
Right,
burden for
yeah.
for making the decision.
right.
And as I say, I have sympathy for the landowner. Yeah, this is an unfortunate thing. But I think we still have to make a decision that would be a true and correct one. I understand. I'm glad to hear that he didn't get all the way done, because I was thinking that he's gonna have to tear this thing down. And I think the addition is like 50 feet long, so at least that's not gonna happen. They don't have the destruction of good stuff. So I think that, and then once again, the precedent issue that you were talking about, because there's the 3 criteria that have to be met, and in this case, they did not meet one of them, which should be a denial of the variance. Regardless of all the other items floating around this. So because that's Minnesota statute that grants this. So we need to follow that. And as far as the precedent, as you say, there's no precedent this, but somewhere along the line, someone's going to come in here, well, you gave this person this, same thing
Yeah.
happened to me, I'm going to want it. That's kind of a human nature thing. And we are kind of a quasi judicial committee here, commission. We are acting like judges to make a ruling on something like this. And so I think that when we make our decision, whatever decision it is, do it what we think is what we would have done with everything else that we know is the way it should be done.
Yeah, I think the only precedent you're setting is if a mistake happens again, and when you're in the same situation, otherwise, hopefully nobody can come in again and say, hey, you did it for this guy, 'cause,
No,
and that's
I
not-
think
yeah.
I think we got a smart group over here that
Right, no, that's what I mean,
they're going to do it.
I wouldn't be
right.
so much worried about the precedent, because hopefully we're not in the same situation again, so
Yeah.
there's not really precedent to set, but.
Yeah,
I think from the standpoint of being consistent and fair and applying the criteria that are available to us to make our recommendations is important, not just for this individual case, but going forward, in
Right.
terms of equal treatment of our residents. And so that, while it's not necessarily legal precedence, does it set us up for circumstances by which someone would come and ask for and expect a variance when if they haven't met the criteria, if we've granted it in other circumstances. And so, that was really the logic for my question.
Sure.
I'm glad to hear that work has not been extensive. I understand and feel for the landowner. I also want to make sure that we keep in mind the bigger picture in terms of how we conduct issuance of variances, so that our ordinances are things that we can uphold and we can apply thoroughly and fairly. So, are there other questions or comments this time?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Administrator?
hi, everybody, I'm Eric. Hey, I just get to send you horrible emails and, but thank you all for hosting it for me on Zoom tonight. I'll try to make your meetings in person. But I just wanted to offer just one perspective about city staff work on this. At the time of the submission, and I can't tell you all that, I started with the city on July 1 as an interim administrator. Prior to my arrival, you had Mr. Holsworth who was manning your ship as a city. That's it. So there was not other people here to assist, take some of the load off. And so I suspect, and everybody would kind of have been in the same boat of trying to just deal with things as quickly as they came in. No, excuses aside, I just wanted you to be aware of that. And since that time, hopefully I can help that. And as well as we have a new city clerk who can also help. Just heck, answering the phone, not sitting in a big empty. And so hopefully the work environment is also better too. So just if you didn't know, I'm sure you did, but I just wanted to mention that. And so yeah, so that's it.
That's important to know.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I guess we still don't know, sorry, it was, so the homeowner, I mean, it looks like there's a letter that says it went out and dated August 12th, saying the rear set to the homeowner, saying the rear setback needs to be a minimum of 60 feet. And then another one went out on the 28th, is that correct? And then another one on the 9/4, I thought I saw, according to the attorney, I thought. So, but we don't know if the homeowner kept moving forward with this project, I guess we don't know, or, you know, in the face of being told don't, I guess, so. I mean, it's an odd circumstance, we don't know about it, I share your assessment, I'm thankful the thing was built. And then we're telling him to knock it down, that seems
Right.
difficult, but if he was notified not to move forward and did. I thought,
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
All right.
yeah.
Are there any other comments or questions at this time? Staff, is there anything else that you wish to share with us about your recommendation?
Would this gentleman be able to take these existing materials? Just put it on the west side of this existing structure?
Is there any, I guess the
Or is this
question is
wet?
probably about the practicalities of building elsewhere on the lot. Could you
Or-
describe that from your findings?
Well, the plan right now is where that concrete slab is, isn't it? He wants to put that addition on the east side of that dwelling extension. Could he take? Is there a chance that? Because there's a good chance that maybe these trusses had to be custom made and everything too. It looks like the trusses are on the ground.
Right.
So those are incurred expenses and we need to, I guess, be sensitive of that, but. Is there a way that it could do this exact same addition, but just flip it, put it on the other end? As a recommendation.
Yeah, they need a new building.
Yeah, we would, yeah, take a look at.
But that's not-
Process,
I
but.
can't really tell, is that wetland?
No.
To the west? Okay,
At least,
maybe that'd just be a possible recommendation so that there isn't a loss of materials now, depending upon what he has in his shed, he probably wanted to have. It different up front, if you will, at the entrance, but it's just a thought for recommendation that it could be transferred over.
On that. So this
He's
is the
already
path.
got the concrete.
Well, there was a driveway anyway.
Sure.
There's a garage. He's got the driveway going.
All right,
Just have to go this way. This is just. That way.
all right. Hearing no more questions, I'm wondering if I can get a motion from the members of the commission on this matter.
I'd make a motion to approve it.
I have a motion to approve the request for a variance. Do I have a second? I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second? I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second? Hearing none. All those in favor, well, at this point with,
Didn't get approved.
we don't,
They
yeah,
don't have a
the motion
second.
fails because we don't have a second. Do I have, is there another motion that the members of the commission wish to put forward?
Make the motion that we deny the variance.
I have a motion
Or
to deny,
Decline the motion, the motion to decline the request for a variance,
citing staff's report.
citing staff's report.
I have a motion to recommend denial based on the staff report and provisions. Do I have a second?
reluctantly, I second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed,
Yeah,
motion carries 4-1. To recommend denial of that request for a variance. That ends our public hearing. And with this being the last item on the agenda for tonight, I'm looking for a motion to end the meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to end the meeting.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for joining this evening. We wish you a wonderful evening.
Here we were talking.
Yeah. I just